Hey, this is David Crone with HorseRacingNation.com. So by now, I'm sure you know the 2010 Kentucky Derby is in the books, and it went to Calvin Borel, Todd Pletcher, and Super Saver. So we know that Super Saver won the race. What I'm going to do today is just kind of talk you through the race, talk about the race a little bit, talk about Super Saver, talk about the trip he got, talk about why Super Saver won the Kentucky Derby, and where the Triple Crown goes from now. Going to the Preakness, I'm going to give you some thoughts on some of these horses and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's just go ahead, let's get into the race, and let's start talking about this thing. Okay, so right from the break, we can see Super Saver dropping into a great spot as Lookin at Lucky is just getting slammed early. And of course, Conveyance and Sydney's Candy are both going to send. Now, Conveyance and Sydney Candy go right out there. They're going on the lead. They're going very, very quickly at this point in time. You can see them getting into that early spot. Sydney's Candy was kind of forced to send. Conveyance just obviously wanted the lead. Around the first turn, we can see here that Mission Impassable is just going to get smashed between horses. He checks back. Conveyance and Sydney's Candy go 22-3 for that opening quarter. And Super Saver is sitting right along the rail, just in excellent, excellent shape. Now, the first half is going to go in another very quick time. This is going in 46 flat. So, as those horses are coming around the turn, we're getting to the backstretch now. Not a lot is going to happen down the backstretch. These horses are all just kind of going to jockey for position, fall into place. Super Saver still just getting an extraordinary trip right down there on the rail. At this point, we can see that Noble's Promise is starting to move up quickly as Conveyance is already being hard ridden. Super Saver is still very comfortable along the rail. Devil May Care also seems to be launching a little bit of a bid right now. She's coming around wide. She looks pretty good right now. I thought my pick had a real shot here. At this point in time, the leaders have just completely stopped. Once they've passed the 6 furlong mark, Conveyance is done. Sydney's Candy is done. Noble's Promise is going to take the lead, is going to take a very brief lead as we turn into the stretch. Super Saver is getting through on the rail. Obviously, Devil May Care is looming. She's flattening out badly. And Icebox is getting stopped for about the first of 55 times right now. And now Super Saver is firmly in command. Paddy O'Prado is passing some horses. Noble's Promise is getting passed by Paddy O'Prado. Make Music for Me is starting to close. And Icebox finally gets clear. He's finishing much, much better than the rest, but it's not going to be enough. So, that was the Derby. That was the race itself. Obviously, Super Saver never had trouble in this trip whatsoever. The Derby often comes down to a combination of skill and luck. And obviously, Super Saver, as Calvin Borel has done 3 of the past 4 years, got just an unbelievable trip. Calvin Borel has gotten 3 of the best Derby trips you could ever get in the past 4 years. Super Saver was no exception. Don't take anything away from the horse. He ran a really good race. He just didn't get in trouble, and that let him perform at the best he could. But he proved he could rate. He proved he could pass horses. He ran a really, really good race. Icebox is going to be the horse that gets all the talk coming out of this race. I've already seen tons of people saying he was by far the best horse in this race. And you know what? On Kentucky Derby Day, Icebox was the best horse in this race. He should have won. But you have to keep in mind, 22-3, 46 flat, those aren't fractions he's likely to get again. And the track at Churchill Downs on Derby Day was really favoring closers. Horses were coming from off the pace all day long. I don't think Icebox is necessarily a great play coming back in, if he does come into the Preakness, or even in the Belmont where there's probably going to be a much softer pace, and he's probably going to be a severe underlay. So Icebox is coming out of this race. To me, though, Super Saver, he deserves to be favored in the Preakness. He deserves to be favored against all these horses, including Lookin at Lucky, who also had a tough trip. But to me, Super Saver ran a race worthy of winning the Derby against this group. It's not a really good group. It's not a super group by any means. So what he did was certainly enough to beat these horses. I think he's a strong horse coming back into the Preakness. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens over the next couple weeks. We have some interesting new shooters coming in. At the top of that list would be Hurricane Ike out of the Derby Trial, and Cara Cortado, who in my opinion may have been the best horse on the West Coast this prep season and got excluded from the Derby. I'm really interested to see how Cara Cortado trains at Pimlico leading up to the Preakness. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Hurricane Ike also, and it's going to be really interesting to watch Super Saver. Calvin Borel's already called him a Triple Crown winner. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that. It's going to be a real interesting couple weeks. Make sure you stick with HorseRacingNation.com. Check back for all kinds of Preakness updates for tracking on Super Saver and all these other contenders. We will see you soon, and we look forward to watching Super Saver come up to this race together at HorseRacingNation.com.